For a long time, I thought motivation was the problem. I thought if I could just want change badly enough, if I could stay inspired, if I could keep the feeling alive, then things would finally stick. Well, they didn't. Motivation would show up for a while and then disappear, and every time it faded, I thought I was failing. But motivation was not the problem. And if you've ever felt stuck because you lost motivation, there's a good chance you were not failing either. Motivation feels powerful when it's there. It gives you energy, clarity, a sense of direction. But motivation is emotional, and emotions fluctuate. Some days you wake up hopeful and focused, other days you wake up tired, heavy, or overwhelmed. Life happens, stress happens, sleep gets disrupted, emotions shift, and motivation fades. What no one really tells us is that motivation was never meant to carry change on its own. It's not stable, it's not reliable, and it's not something you can force. So when people say, just stay motivated, well, what they are really saying is stay in a state you do not control. And that sets people up to blame themselves. This is where a lot of quiet shame comes in. You start thinking, well, everyone else seems consistent. Why can't I just stick to things? Why do I always fall off? But losing motivation doesn't mean you lack discipline. It doesn't mean you are lazy. It doesn't mean you don't want change badly enough. It usually means you are relying on something unstable to do a job that requires steadiness. Motivation can start things, but it doesn't sustain them. Something else does. Things really began to change for me when I stopped trying to feel motivated and started learning how to stay steady, not by pushing harder, but by building support for the days when motivation was not there.
This is where something you learned becomes something you live. Real transformation only happens through practice and action. Story, awareness, action, transformation. If you want something practical to take from this video, this week's action is different. It's not something you do when motivation disappears, it's something you set up before it does. Because motivation will fade. That's normal. So instead of waiting for the feeling, we reduce the number of decisions you have to make on the days you don't feel like it. So here's the practice: choose one small action that supports you, something realistic, simple, and non negotiable. And decide in advance when it happens. Not when I feel like it, not when I'm motivated, but at a specific time or in a specific situation. For example, after I make my morning coffee, I step outside for 2 minutes. Or when I sit at my desk, I will write one sentence. Before I check my phone at night, I will breathe for 1 minute. After dinner, I will prepare tomorrow's clothes. The action itself is not the point. The point is you are no longer relying on motivation to decide. You are giving yourself something to lean on when energy is low. This isn't discipline, it's support. It's how you stay steady on ordinary days when nothing feels inspiring. If motivation fades, you are not broken. You are human. Real change doesn't come from feeling inspired all the time. It comes from learning how to stay steady in ordinary moments. This is part of learning how to stay grounded. And this is part of learning how to live. If this resonated, you're not alone. Growth begins with honesty. Awareness is the first step. Learn for Life Now exists to help people grow, heal, and transform through real stories, practical tools, and experiences that help us build a brighter future. This is a lifelong journey, and we are on it together. You can read every recipe in the world, but you won't taste anything until you cook. So take at least one insight from today and put it into practice. Turn knowledge into experience, because that's where real transformation begins. Thank you for being here. And if you want to keep receiving content that supports your growth, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next.